Manchester City headed to Ellen Road having had a good start to the season. Indeed, they were second in the table. Leeds were unchanged, with Chris Fairclough still out. One of the things that had attracted Wilkinson to Tony Dorigo was the Australian shooting power, and after 90 minutes he found his range for the first time for the club. Something that seemed to please Gary McAllister almost as much as Dorigo himself. Now, the last time David Batty scored a goal for Leeds, he'd got a completely different set of teammates. So understandably, the crowd went crazy as Batty turned in Strachan's cross. His previous goal had also been scored against Manchester City almost 4 years earlier. 2-0 to Leeds. When Chris White was adjudged to foul Niall Quinn right on the edge of the box, some schoolboy errors were to follow. The first decision was for the referee to make. Penalty, he said. So up stepped England international Peter Reid. And from 12 yards, he hit the post. Then he hit the net. But every schoolboy knows you can't touch the ball twice consecutively when you've taken a spot kick, something McAllister had to explain to the disappointed Reid. And things went from bad to worse for Manchester City. Batty beat Reid to the ball. Steve Hodge was then brought down by Steve Redmond, another penalty kick. An easy decision to make after that push. This time it was Gordon Strachan who completed the route with an excellent spot kick just inside the left-hand post. And that left Howard Wilkinson a very satisfied manager. This had been an impressive performance by Leeds, in particular David Batty. What a milestone, only his second goal in 161 appearances for the club. And Tony Dorigo, he scored his first.
I remember this distinctly, and you know why I remember that game for, which is the same as every Leeds fan remembers that game for. It's David Batty's first goal.
They used to shout, shoot, Batty, shoot. So it became a bit monotonous. I think they would get a bit fed up with it. Every time we get the ball, they say, shoot. But then he scored.
That's when it kind of brought home to me that here we had a player who may not have been revered around the country, but the Yorkshire folk loved him because he was a 110%er, and you know, that kind of was fantastic for him to score his goal. He obviously didn't score too many, and the Leeds fans, but I scored a cracker. I scored a half volley into the top corner, but he got nothing, and it was all about bats. But I understood why, and it was fantastic.
Wallace had looked good from the start of that game, but he provided the only concern, having limped off with a groin injury after only 12 minutes. He would be out for 6 weeks. Leeds had moved up to 4th in the table. The league table showed just how important that victory over Manchester City had been, with City sitting above Leeds in 3rd but having played a game more. It also sent out a message to the other early pace setters that Leeds really meant business. Pre-season favourites Liverpool had also started well, but it was Manchester United who were leading the way. Leeds' next game brought a trip to Stamford Bridge to face Chelsea, a fixture which was traditionally fierce.
I understood the rivalry that there was. I didn't quite understand the I think, ferocity of how they actually felt until I went down there. And I think it's taken two ways, because I was very fortunate. I was actually Player of the Year for Leeds United in that Championship winning side, but I was Player of the Year at Chelsea as well. So you're kind of one of the loved ones, and then you've gone and deserted and gone for the wrong shirt. So when I went down there, I got booed as soon as I came out the tunnel for the warm-up. But what I distinctly remember, we used to play keep ball to warm up, and you would knock it amongst the players and what have you. And then when it got to me, passed to me, the Chelsea crowd in the warm-up are going nuts. Boo! So of course, what do my teammates do? They keep giving it to me. Every second pass was back to me. So the crowd was hysterical, and it was just funny. And I mean, I like the atmosphere. I like that sort of thing, and to win obviously there was wonderful.
Wilkinson faced a hard task getting his squad ready for the trip to the capital. With Rod Wallace out, Carl Shutt was given his first start and repaid the manager's faith, getting on the end of a measured Gary Speed cross to put Leeds ahead. He was clearly delighted with his goal after being out for several weeks. Dorigo was hounded by the home supporters. He almost silenced them. His cross found McAllister. Chapman's shot was brilliantly turned away by Hitchcock. Leeds pushed forward and were almost caught on the break when Graham Lascelles' cross found Dennis Wise. He put the ball past Lukic and went away to celebrate, only to discover he'd been given offside. After scoring that only goal of the game, Shutt was ordered back onto the pitch by referee Milford. He apparently told the ref, "I've been out for 8 weeks. What would you expect if you'd just scored?" Leeds were now second in the table, and next on the agenda, a trip to Highfield Road to face a Coventry City side, fourth in the table, who'd already beaten both Arsenal and Notts County. Terry Butcher, the Coventry manager, had praised Leeds' physicality and picked out in particular one man, Gordon Strachan. It was a rare off night for Chapman, whose scoring touch deserted him. In fact, Leeds owed everything to John Lukic, this excellent save from Robert Rosario typical. On another night, Leeds might have taken all 3 points, but Chapman missed a great chance 7 minutes from time. One of the keys to the rejuvenation of Leeds United had been the signing of Gordon Strachan, and in front of a capacity crowd of over 32,000, Strachan achieved a milestone, his 100th appearance for the club. He was delighted it was going to be against one of the top teams in the league in Liverpool. The only change to the Leeds lineup saw Steve Hodge coming in on the left side of midfield. Gary Speed moved up front to partner Lee Chapman. Carl Shutt was left out, Rod Wallace was still injured. As for Liverpool, well, they started with Ian Rush up front and a man that Leeds had tried to sign during the summer, Dean Saunders. He eventually moved to Liverpool for £2.9 million.
What can Leeds contrive? Chris White's gone up and gets in there as well. Grobbelaar down on the ground. Chapman cleared off the line. Not clear yet. Grobbelaar has it in his hands. Chris White was coming in, and Lee Chapman, who's always keen to get on the score sheet against Liverpool, raising the first cheer of the afternoon, really. Grobbelaar didn't hold on to it, and Chapman's hook cleared off the line by Tanner. Chapman has done really well there. He's found Strachan. Strachan in the area. Could he finish it? He's taken a deflection and just gone wide. Impish work from Gordon Strachan. He raced into the Liverpool penalty area. Really tricked Ablett there. And then the deflection from Tanner carried it wide. But applause once more for Gordon Strachan, who's so influential. Chapman's got in there. White is with him as well. It's coming to the near post. Grobbelaar up. Dorigo here. A scorer in the last home game. It's come through, and Leeds have got the lead through Steve Hodge. The pressure from the corner kick paid off. Leeds got bodies in there, and the most important of all at the end was Hodge. Chapman going for it. Grobbelaar couldn't get a clean punch. White challenged as well. Dorigo knocked it on, and Hodge turned it in. Only up as far as Dorigo. He's headed past finds McAllister. Strachan's gone through the middle, and Strachan can really finish it this time. What a great save by Grobbelaar. Magnificent stop by Liverpool's goalkeeper. Tremendous ball by McAllister that opened the way for Strachan, and that's going to be one of the saves of the season, I fancy. Strachan able to bring it clear for Leeds. And Grobbelaar is... oh, did he handle that ball? The referee says not. He's nearly made a mess of it and giving it to Shutt. And still this eccentric goalkeeper continues to excite the fans, some of whom thought he'd got a hand on that ball. If he had, he'd have been sent off. Nickel. And Liverpool have been beaten at Ellen Road for the first time in 18 seasons. Steve Hodge with the only goal after 26 minutes makes it another disappointing day for Graham Souness. Hodge on his full home debut for Leeds, a memorable day for him and for the fans. Leeds a good value for their victory and stretch their unbeaten start to the season to 9 matches. Leeds United 1, Liverpool 0.
Steve had an eye for goal, and he had an eye for, more importantly, important goals. People were starting to think in terms of squad rather than team. His contribution that season was invaluable.
Leeds had played Scunthorpe United in the Rumbelows Cup, and as a result of an injury picked up in that game, Gordon Strachan was out of the trip to Carrow Road. Imre Varadi came in, and something of a surprise, David Batty was given the captain's armband.
So it was just a confidence about the team that could be one player in and one player out. You know, somebody's injured, somebody comes in and slots into that, and it just keeps rolling. It just keeps going. There was no fluctuation, no matter who came in.
So there's a great picture of that as well when we were 1 down, I think, and we come back, and I slotted into the top corner, but yeah, it was great. That year, as the season progressed, you know, even when we went behind, we always felt we had, you know, more than enough to come back and win and score, you know, any old how.
Wilkinson was quoted as saying it was disappointing that Leeds had let the result get away from them, but the start to the season had still given the club a good basis to work on. With 10 games gone, Leeds were looking strong. Manchester United were still leading the way, with Manchester City and Liverpool having dropped off a little. It was still very early days, but Arsenal and Sheffield Wednesday had started to push up the table. So Leeds headed to Selhurst Park to face Crystal Palace in the fixture postponed from the opening day of the season. Leeds' record of only 1 win in 60 years at Selhurst Park was maintained. Mark Bright headed in and Andy Gray crossed deep into injury time. The defeat increased Manchester United's advantage at the top of the table.
There's this thing sometimes about fate, coincidences. When I first went to Sheffield Wednesday, my first season at Sheffield Wednesday, I think we went 18 games, 17 games without defeat, start of the season. Where the hell do we get beat? Crystal Palace away, midweek, awful night, raining, shouldn't have got beat, and we get done late on in the game, and we've lost the record. And we go down to Palace, you know, we play Palace again and again. So you're not pleased when it happens, but as I say, you can't dwell on these things. Learn the lessons, move on.
Well, that defeat was a disappointment, but the season continued with the important factor being to clinch a place in Europe. The next 2 games were to be against Notts County and Sheffield United. On the face of it, both winnable. Leeds were in second place. Manchester United now had to face Arsenal and Liverpool. Tough games, important for Leeds to keep the pressure on.
Leeds with 4 players inside the penalty area. Sterling the long one towards the near post, and Chapman doesn't get there. Here's Hodge, and the first goal is scored by Steve Hodge. It was a bit of a daisy cutter and it bobbled through, and Steve Hodge, with his 3rd goal for Leeds United, makes the early breakthrough on 5 minutes. Sheffield United couldn't cope with the corner, driven in by Hodge, and Kite left helpless. Leeds have a corner, and again Kite didn't quite get there, and it was headed against the outside of the upright by Shutt. And a free kick is going to be awarded against Phil Kite here for kicking the ball from outside his area. And that free kick really is down to the linesman on the far side, Gareth Davis. Well, I bet Mel Sterling fancies a crack at goal here, so might McAllister. And the Sheffield United wall is formed. Let's see if it can be pierced. Shutt and Hodge have gone to be members of it. I think Sterling might whack it in hard. He does, and he scores! And Sterling maintains his astonishing record of taking it out on Sheffield United. A Sheffield Wednesday boy at heart, and for the 3rd season in a row, he finds Sheffield United's net. Batty brings it away for Leeds. Tenaciously. Oh, lovely ball as well from McAllister. And if McAllister can square it, Shutt was through almost on his own. Far side of the area. Up comes Dorigo now. Leeds have got 5 men inside the Sheffield United penalty box. Speed was on the end of it, and the ball ends in the crowd. Oh, delightfully done by McAllister. He saw the space. Look at the pass as well. It's gone out to Speed. Forward goes Dorigo into the Sheffield penalty area. It's a penalty. Brought down by Ian Bryson, and Leeds have the chance to go 3 up. Tony DeRiga wins the penalty here. Ian Bryson's push on the full-back. And it's turning into a nightmare of a first half for Sheffield United. Sterland and McAllister, I think, are arguing about who is to take the penalty. They are. And that's an interesting confrontation that will not be approved of by Howard Wilkinson. Just look at this. McAllister is furious. He says, I take the penalties. Sterland says, I take them. Gordon Strachan usually does, of course. And yet another talking point. It's to be hoped from Leeds' point of view he scores. He does. And it's 3-0. But I'm not sure McAllister will go and shake his hand, or will he? He does, but he's infuriated. 3-0, 2 for Mel Sterland. 38 minutes gone. Driven past Kite's left hand and in.
I can imagine Dave Bassett will be giving his side a right rollicking. They've showed no character, they've showed no fight, and he'll be very disappointed with that because he's a very proud manager. He won't want to see his team do that. They'll be coming out in the second half fighting very hard, and if Leeds let them standards drop a little bit, then they could let them back into the game.
Chapman, speed, must be number 4 for Steve Hodge. And how simple it was. 2 for Hodge, 2 for Sterland, 4 goals in 47 minutes. And Leeds are running riot with the match. Well, Chapman may not have got a goal for a few weeks, but his contribution there was immense. Speed too got a flick on, and Steve Hodge there to pounce. Here's Whitehouse's cross. Oh, and there's a firm header and a goal from Jamie Hoyland. So Sheffield United have some joy at last. A cracking header from Jamie Hoyland, his second goal of the season, and it certainly makes the scoreline more respectable. Whitehouse with the cross, and Hoyland getting in above all the Leeds United defenders. Speed comes with the header. Fine save again by Phil Kite. It's an excellent header from Gary Speed, and a superb stop by the goalkeeper. It's the second he's made in 2 minutes. Unusual to see Gordon Strachan sitting on the bench. His hamstring problems still not cleared, and he's scored a number of goals against Sheffield United in recent seasons, but he'll be happy to see his colleagues getting 4. Shut for Leeds. Oh, and the back pass. Oh, it's let Tony Agana in. He can make it 4-2 here, and he has done. So another consolation for Sheffield United. Well, who knows, 14 minutes to go, and they're back in it at 4-2. Disastrous mistake by Carl Schutt here, playing the ball back towards John Lukic, and there was no one within 20 yards of Agana. He's able to go on coolly and roll the ball wide of Lukic and make the scoreline much more respectable, and Carl Schutt will be crestfallen. Their away results have been pretty awful so far this season. They've lost 4, drawn 1. But Gannon's free kick invites a header. Lukic punches it down. Bradshaw scores for Sheffield United. And it's Leeds 4, Sheffield United 3 now. What a remarkable turnaround this is. And Carl Bradshaw celebrates his first appearance of the season with a goal. Gannon flighted it in, and John Lukic really coming for the punch, never quite getting there. Bradshaw took it calmly and swept it in. And Howard Wilkinson on the Leeds bench will be distraught by some of the things he's seen. He hates sloppiness. He hates to see his team give away goals. They conceded one in the last minute at Crystal Palace to drop 3 points in midweek. And now they've conceded 3 to Sheffield United, who didn't look to be in the game. Sheffield look again to produce the most dramatic finale of all. Can they make it 4-4? Here's the free kick. Bodies in the area. Chapman it was who headed it away. There are 21 players inside the Leeds half, and the whistle blows to end a quite dramatic Yorkshire derby, which has been won 4-3 by Leeds.
Afterwards, Wilkinson admitted he was pleased the game was over. 3 points were in the bag. He described it as no classic, proof that goals don't make great games. Next for Leeds, a trip to Meadow Lane to face another of Wilkinson's former clubs, Notts County. Fairclough, Sterland and Strachan all returned to the starting lineup, and Steve Hodge started in place of Gary McAllister, who was on the bench. The game started badly for Leeds, with Gary Lunn scoring for County on his top-flight debut. But after that, Leeds took over. First, Chapman scored after Shutt had headed over a Strachan cross. Then headers from Steve Hodge and Chris White made the game safe, before Gary McAllister sealed the victory from long range. For the visit of Oldham Athletic, Leeds were back to what they regarded as their best team, which meant that both Gary McAllister and Rod Wallace were back in the side. Joe Royal's Oldham were obviously going to come for a point, but a Leeds win would take them to the top of the table, which would be a first in Wilkinson's career. With the prize of going top of the league table at stake, Leeds started nervously. Brian Kilcline's header from a Nick Henry cross was a stark reminder Leeds have rarely got the better of Oldham. Pressure from the visitors almost saw them take the lead, a McDonald volley not far away. In the end, it was an Oldham player who got the only goal of the day. Batty and McAllister combined, Brian Kilcline rammed it into his own net.
Sometimes a 1-0 win, which really makes you work hard, which is really deserved, can do a team a lot more good than 2-3-nillers, because people actually get to recognise how close the difference can be and how concentrated you've got to be, how much on your job you've got to be. You know, that one mistake can cost you.
Indeed, narrow victories were proving invaluable. Leeds had climbed to top spot after Manchester United lost at Hillsborough 3-2. Their Pennine rivals still had a game in hand, but Wilkinson believed Leeds had played enough games to show, given a fair run of the ball, they could have a say in the title race. Now it was back to Selhurst Park, this time though to face the Dons. 7,000 fans saw a very dour game as Leeds faced Wimbledon. It was a decent crowd for the home fans, who almost saw their team take an unexpected lead. A lovely piece of skill from John Fashanu on the half hour. That effort had hit the woodwork. It was the closest either side would come to a goal, although once again Leeds survived a late scare. Terry Gibson's shot beat Lukic and also the post.